What is this garbage you're watching? I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Doug. I'm a former nurse. I've worked in just about every specialty you can think about inside of a hospital and outside of a hospital. I've worked in clinical settings. I've been a home pediatric nurse. I've been a methadone clinic nurse. I've worked in, like I said, med-surg, urology, renal, oncology, telemetry, orthopedics, ER. I've worked as a rehab nurse, not drug rehab, but rehab after you get out of the hospital. Let's say you go in, you have a heart attack, you got blocked arteries, they call that a cabbage procedure. You go to the rehab facility. If you go in and have a back surgery called a lumbar laminectomy, you go to rehab. When you go to rehab, you see a doctor, he prescribes rehab so you can get back on your feet to go back home, because you cannot be released from the hospital and go home after having heart surgery or back surgery and be 100%. You got to get some rehab, some physical therapy, and in the process to make it home. I did that. I worked as a psychiatric nurse. Didn't I say I was a methadone clinic nurse? Anyway, I've done and seen about everything that can be done and seen. And I'm butting heads with people on these Facebook opioid groups. I've subscribed to 40 of them, and the reason I did is because in June 2016, I ended a 3-year dance with oxycodone. I was on oxycodone 30 milligrams 4 times a day, and I found out later in my addiction, when I was prescribed Tramadol for breakthrough pain, I was running out of my oxy early, and it wasn't because of abusing it, it's because I was having chronic insomnia while I was on opioids. The chronic insomnia was induced by the opioids, as well as the chronic need to up my pain medicine. I kept feeling more pain, becoming more sleepless, and so my doctor gave me Tramadol as a breakthrough medication, 50 milligrams 4 times a day. I took it, it didn't do anything for pain. I ended up having many nights of sleepless nights and staying up and taking an extra pill a day. After you take an extra pill a day over 10 to 15 days of sleeplessness or whatever, you run out of medicine early. When I ran out of medicine early in the previous bouts of insomnia, I suffered. I would have to wait 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 days before I got my oxycodone refilled and I could get that oxy in my system and feel well again. During all this, I felt anxiety, night sweats, anorexia, you name it. You just feel like crap. But later in my addiction, when I was prescribed the Tramadol, I ran out of oxy early, and then I leaned on the Tramadol. Well, after night 1 and day 1, I didn't feel sick. I didn't have any anxiety, didn't have any diarrhea, didn't have any night sweats. Day 2, I was expecting to wake up, feel sick. Never felt sick. For the next couple of days until I got my oxy refilled, I was cool. I was good to go. And a light went off in my head. Tramadol is the answer. The next month, my car broke down. I was contemplating stopping opioids anyway because I was sick of the process. And I ran out of medicine, and my doctor's clinic moved on the other side of town. My car broke down. There was no way I could get a ride, and I said, this is it. I'm ending this. I'm going to do Tramadol. I'm going to get off of oxy. Little did I know I would not suffer any ill effects. No dope sickness, no anxiety, no night sweats, no cramping, no diarrhea, nothing. So I decided here in 2018 I was going to share this experience with other people. So I subscribed to about 40 or 50 opioid recovery groups on Facebook. Some people have received this really well. Some people that, since I posed to, there was one today saying, I detoxed using Tramadol, it worked great for me. But there's people out there who hate other people, who hate that, well, I didn't get a chance to detox without Tramadol, so I'm going to hate on you. And that's what they've been doing. A lot of people are telling me that you can't use tramadol and methadone together because tramadol will potentiate a withdrawal response in methadone patients. Let me say this. I worked in a methadone treatment clinic as a nurse, dosing people with methadone. Never heard that from anybody. I researched the internet weeks ago when I was planning this. Didn't find anything. I called a pharmacist tonight and asked her, do you know any interaction between methadone and tramadol? She goes, nope. Just like any other narcotics, when you combine two narcotics together, there's always a risk for oversedation and also a risk for seizures. But that is only in concomitant use of both substances at high doses. Let's say you're on methadone and you say, well, I want to take some tramadol, I'll see if I can get high. You can get high, but you can also die of a seizure. Tramadol, when used in excess of 400 milligrams, spread out over the day, can kill you by way of a seizure. It can also kill you the same old-fashioned way that all opioids kill you. You fall asleep and you don't wake up. You just simply die from lack of breathing. So I went ahead and I looked this up, and I did find a few articles or a few posts throughout the internet that says, yeah, you can't mix the two, and people are asking, can I mix methadone and tramadol? And people are saying, no, you can't do it because tramadol blocks methadone. Well, structurally, methadone is the same it's same just about as morphine, as Dilaudid, as oxycodone, or OxyContin, hydrocodone. They're all clinically about the same, structurally about the same, or I should say pharmacology-wise, they're all about the same. They're just twists on different aspects of them. And methadone does not have an aspect of any other opioid that tramadol would cause a withdrawal process. What I think is happening with people is that when they go to a substance abuse clinic or they're in rehab, they're told that, hey, once you taper off this methadone, don't try Vicodin, don't try tramadol. Tramadol, even though in the past it was not a class 4 narcotic or a scheduled narcotic, it is now. And so don't be fooled by that, because it can reinitiate your relapse. Some people have interpreted that as it can make you go into withdrawals. I don't see how it can. Structurally, methadone is just about the same as any other opioid. It's more stronger than few and weaker than others. So in response to everybody who's giving me hell on Facebook on these opioid groups, this is my reply, because I'm trying to help addicts get off opioids without going into withdrawal. One of the biggest reasons why addicts don't stop use. Number one, fear of withdrawal. Number two, I still got to go to work. I still got to go to school. What else? Of course, you don't want to get sick. I can't afford treatment. If you can afford to go see your doctor, and here's something I'm trying to tell you and make clear. People are telling me, stop giving advice. I'm not legally able to do that. Anybody is legally able to give advice. When you watch the 6 p.m. news or 5 p.m. news and all those drug commercials come on, for my opioid-induced chronic constipation, I take Mobantic. I am doing nothing more than these fake actors. I am telling you, take this information, print it off from the blog, take it to your doctor and say, hey doc, this guy Doug, here's his information. Just show him a print off from my blog, give him a couple of minutes to read through it, and he'll look at it and he'll either say yes or no. I'm just trying to help you people to get off opioids without getting sick and without, well, it's not without, but what I'm trying to say is most people don't want to get off opioids because they feel it's either too painful or they'll get too sick or they can't afford it. If you can afford a doctor's visit, you can And if he says yes and gives you a 7 to 14 day supply of Tramadol and you follow what the instructions he gave you, you can do this. I can't tell you to do it. I can tell you, you should see your doctor and ask him, would you please try this for me? Because I don't want to feel sick. And I don't want to be on methadone for another 6 months while you try to taper me off. Or I don't want to be on Vivitrol. Or I want to be on 6 months of Suboxone. Because I can tell you that most drug tapers last weeks and months. My taper only lasted 5 days after my last dose of oxycodone. The way I did it, my last day, I took 4 doses. 1 in the morning, 1 at noon, 1 at 4, and 1 at 8. The next day, I took a half a dose in the morning, at night, and I started Tramadol. The next day, I took a 15 milligram tablet in the bedtime, and I continued Tramadol. 5 days after that, I continued Tramadol. On the 6th day, no Tramadol. Guess what? I came out of it smelling like a rose. Didn't feel bad, didn't feel sick, no diarrhea, nothing. Now, my body was jaded from being on oxycodone for a long time because I couldn't go to sleep and sleep as well as I did when I was medicated, but I didn't have night sweats at night. I mean, I had to deal with some cramping in my fingers and toes. I did a lot of yawning and a little watery in the eyes, but that's nothing. Anybody can overcome all that. So for you people that are hating on me and telling me I can't do this and I can't tell other people to do this, well, if I can't do it, then the makers of Mobanic can't suggest that you go to your doctor and talk to them, talk to your doctor and say, hey, doc, this methadone is giving me constipation. Can I try Mobanic? What do you know about Mobanic? I saw a commercial on TV. What do you know about Tramadol? This guy named Doug that was a former nurse, and he was on oxycodone for 3 years, said he did it, and it worked for him. So go to my website, go to the blog, read it, and if you want to do it and you want to try this, print it off and give it to your doctor. Your doctor's going to look it over, and he'll make a decision if he'll do it. My taper protocol that's on there, that worked for me. It may not work for you. There are people out there who are complaining, I was on methadone and I tried Tramadol and I got fucked up on Tramadol. It made me high. Number one, I want to ask you, how much Tramadol did you do? Did you take a 50 milligram tablet or 10 50 milligram tablets? Because when I take Tramadol, I don't get high on it. And there's plenty of data on the internet that suggests that people who are not opioid naive, by that it means that people who are chronic long-term users of opioids, they're not naive anymore to opioids. These type of people don't get high on a regular dose of Tramadol, be it 50 milligrams or 100 milligrams. But if you've only been doing methadone and you do it for a kick, and you've only been doing it for a month, 3 months, 6 months, every once in a while, yeah, Tramadol is going to get you high. But don't say you're trading one drug for another. The only way you're trading one drug for another is if you're trying to get fucked up on Tramadol like you got fucked up on methadone. If you're trying to get well and get off methadone that you're hooked up to, if you take the right dose of Tramadol, you're not going to get high. There is so much data that states that Tramadol is probably one of the least likely opioids to be addicted to. Now I know people are going to come and say, well, yeah, I got addicted to Tramadol. You got addicted to Tramadol because number one, you were using it to get stoned. Number two, your doctor prescribed it to you for long-term daily use like an idiot, and he didn't tell you you're going to get addicted. There are a lot of people out there who have rheumatoid arthritis who were told by their doctor this is safer than taking NSAIDs, which are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like aspirin, ibuprofen, and Aleve. Those kind of drugs will induce renal failure. Tramadol won't, but it could over a long-term period, just like other opioids can. All opioids have the potential to do anything to you. Oversedate you, put you at risk for seizures and other complications. But I'm telling you, if you're on methadone, you should be able to find a stable, safe dose of tramadol while you come off methadone. It should only take about 7 to 10 days after your last dose of methadone to safely taper off the tramadol. Because after 7 to 10 days, there are no more metabolites of methadone in your bloodstream. And it's even less days for if you're on shorter duration narcotics like Vicodin, hydrocodone, Norco, or oxycodone, or Dilaudid. Tramadol is the perfect drug to do this without getting sick. And I'm tired of people hating on me and trying to tell me different. Now, if you want to continue to hate. I won't respond to you. The only thing that I do if you start hating, I'll say, watch this video, this very video right here. Otherwise, I'm not going to say anything to you because I'm tired of wasting my breath on you. There are 91 people a day in the United States, according to the Centers for Disease Control, who die from opioid addiction. I would imagine that the majority of those people don't want to die, and that the majority would like to get off of opioids safely without getting sick. Tramadol is that method that you can use. Now, you can use methadone if you want to withdraw off heroin. But the only reason you're on methadone is because, number one, it's potent. Number two, you don't inject it. And number three, it has a very long half-life, meaning that you can dose somebody once or twice a day, and that will fix them for the day to keep them going in from dope sickness. Now, to taper off methadone means you have to go down milligram, by week, by month. Tramadol only requires that you go from methadone to tramadol. Taper up to the right dose of tramadol to get it into your system, either instant release or extended release. Stop taking methadone. Stop taking oxycodone, Vicodin, Norco, whatever it is. It's all the same. Taper up to tramadol. You stop the methadone. Tramadol communicates with the same opioid receptor that every other opioids do, and you take tramadol until methadone is out of your system. It takes about 5 to 7 to 10 days, depending on how big you are, how much fat you have in your body, and how big your dose was, and how long you're taking it. But it shouldn't take any more than 14 days. For people who are on shorter acting opioids like oxycodone, Vicodin, Dilaudid, and stuff like that, it should only take 5 to 7 days. Once that last dose has been taken of your opioid of choice, that's it. Now you're on the tramadol. You're not getting high. You don't feel sick. Keep taking the tramadol. Then taper off the tramadol and quit. That's it. You're not going to be puking. You're not going to be praying to the porcelain god that we know as the toilet. You're not going to be crapping all over yourself. You're not going to miss work. You're going to have a safe detox. Now, from what I've been reading on the internet, more and more clinics are starting to do studies about the tramadol. Here's one right here that states, this was done in 2017, they're talking about the difference between tramadol and buprenorphine. Sorry if I did not pronounce that right, but it basically says that tramadol shows more promise than buprenorphine because it takes longer to detox with buprenorphine than it does with tramadol. And with buprenorphine, you have more side effects of sickness and illness. With tramadol, you have less. Got that out of the way. Here's a question. I was prescribed methadone and tramadol for my pain. Someone told me I shouldn't take the two together. So I looked it up online and found stuff that says yes, you can, and stuff that says no, you can't. So I wonder, is it safe or dangerous to take the two together? Now, this is Faye Long, who is a registered nurse with a master's degree in social work. She doesn't say she works in a clinic, but if an RN has a master's degree in social work, I'm pretty sure she's a case manager and a counselor for drug addicts. Here's what you got to say. Hi, Mark. Since tramadol at high doses may increase the incidence of seizure activity, recreational use can be very dangerous. I cannot express this enough. Anyone trying to get high on tramadol, it's probably a bigger risk to take tramadol to get fucked up on than heroin. Because unlike heroin, which can cause seizure, but rarely does, tramadol will cause seizure. Don't do that. So recreational use can be very dangerous. Used according to recommended doses, it is known to have effects very like those of other opioids such as codeine. It's just a wee tad stronger than codeine and a wee tad stronger than Darvocet, which I don't think they make anymore. Aside from that, tramadol is the weakest shit you can get. The effects aren't as tense. However, tramadol can cause nausea, dizziness, insomnia, and or the advantage of being easier to lower the dose in withdrawal programs. It's easier to lower the dose. Use of tramadol with methadone has not been scientifically shown to lower the effects of methadone. It hadn't been shown to interact with methadone, but some persons who have used the two medications together are convinced otherwise. That's you people on the Facebook opioid agony columns. There is no established contradiction for use of both tramadol and methadone at the very same time. As always, monitored by your physician. Physician is key, and always report any unusual effects to your doctor. I've been hammered in the head 5 times a day. You can't take tramadol with methadone. It'll kill me. I'm going to withdrawals. Got a pimple on my nose. Here's one, and this is from 1994, and this is from Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health, the NIH. Acute effects of tramadol and methadone maintained volunteers. The opioid agonist and antagonist properties of tramadol were assessed in 6 male opioid-dependent volunteers enrolled in methadone maintenance program. Subjects participated in 3 experimental sessions which the effects of intramuscular tramadol 100, 300 milligram and placebo were evaluated. Tramadol neither produced morphine-like effects nor precipitated a withdrawal syndrome. Its subjective behavioral and physiological effects were not different from those of placebo. Although results of this study suggest that tramadol has a low abuse liability in opioid-dependent subjects, higher doses should be tested to confirm these data. They didn't say there was a problem of any type. Here's where a lot of this stuff is coming from. Can you take methadone with tramadol? Help with tramadol. Will tramadol be as effective as methadone? Is 50 milligram of tramadol as effective as 10 milligram methadone? Once again, this is the deal where somebody says you can't do it, but they won't explain how or why you can't do it, and they won't back it up with clinical or pharmacological data. Here we go. The guy said, can I take tramadol with methadone? And this is from Veer Vaughn in 2015. It doesn't say what his credentials are. It generally isn't recommended that you take both, because what you heard is correct. The tramadol can block the methadone and cause dangerous withdrawal. The FDA classifies this medication as a narcotic analgesic, but they forgot to add that the FDA classifies this as a analgesic compound not chemically related to opioids. So it has the potential to be habit forming and may cause side effects, such as nausea, dizziness, dry, blah, 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 blah. Okay. He says it does interfere with methadone, but he doesn't specify how, and he doesn't lay his credentials on the line. So I don't know. But I do know this. You can take my data and you take it to the doctor, print it off, and have him look at it. Don't be closed-minded to this unless you want to stay on methadone for a long time and take enemas every day. And if you're a man, lose your sex drive, have very few orgasms if you can have any, and then also have your testosterone reduced and go on injections, because opioids, long-term use, will cause opioid-induced androgen deficiency. Androgen, that's testosterone. What happens when you're on opioids for a long time? Sex life goes in a tank for a male, and ejaculation is almost non-existent. I know, I've been there. Drug interactions with methadone, oral, and tramadol. This is from RX List. I looked it up. There are none. It just says that, you know, excessive use of any two opioid compounds or opioid related compounds will increase sedation as well as increase the risk of potential seizures. If you're using known safe dosages of both drugs, there should be no problem with oversedation. There should be no problem with seizure risk. However, about 1% of people who take Tramadol can experience a seizure while on a safe dose. That can happen with anything. I can tell you, as a nurse who's worked in many different settings, you can have an anaphylactic reaction to aspirin even after you've been on aspirin all your life. At any point in time, you could come down and have an anaphylactic reaction to Tylenol. It can happen with anything. There is no drug that is a safe drug. All drugs come with a potential risk of side effect and even death. That said, I think I just about covered everything. Anybody that wants help with this, ask me a question. I'll be more than happy to help you in answering your question. I'm sorry for the enunciation and dictation problem. I am not a well-versed YouTuber. I don't do well speaking in front of people. I'm not Casey Neistat. I don't do this for a living. I'm doing this because I feel a moral obligation to try to help other people come off opioids and do it safely and without the fear of getting sick or missing work or missing school, and do so without relapsing. And for those that you say you're trading one drug for another, no. When someone puts you on methadone and you was on heroin, that's trading one drug for another, because methadone is your maintenance medication. Tramadol isn't. It's your taper medicine. You can taper off Tramadol in 1 to 2 weeks. It's going to take months to get off methadone, if you can get off methadone. And the reason is because if it's long half-life and it takes so long for the metabolites to metabolize from your body. When you taper down to Tramadol, which is a short-acting opioid-like drug that still communicates with the opioid receptor, when you cut that half-life down to 4 to 6 hours or whatever it is, it makes the addiction process easier to kick. The longer you're on a longer duration opioid like methadone, it just means it's going to take a long time. You better be in it for the long haul. I see I'm 27 minutes into this video. Please like, share, subscribe. If you try this, great. If it works for you, please come back and tell us so I can share the story with other people. Anyway, that's going to be the end of the show, and I got to work on getting this pimple off my nose. Goodbye.